Hey everyone, Bill Adams here with Willow Wraith Press, and today I wanted to do my reading roundup of March and do all the indie books I read. And I will say, March was a pretty darn good month for me reading wise. Trying to be a little bit healthier and go to bed earlier, not stay up so late, not eat so bad, and all that stuff. So I've been spending a lot more time reading the last month than I had been in the past, where I was just reading here and there. But March was definitely a good month for me. So I want to go through the books that I read and give shout outs and everything. And it was a fun month for me. It was all over the place, and every one of them was a good book. Definitely good books. Definitely check out all indie books. And I started with I think I'm going to put it in quotes. I think it started off as an indie book. She might have been picked up by Trad. I don't know with this book or maybe just future books. But the book I started off with is Thrum by Meg Smitherman. Now, this book was what the hell? It's a space book. It's a novella. I'll start out there. It's a novella, and it's got a lot of Event Horizon type vibes. Not like the horror in terms of like body horror and all that stuff, but the spaceship vibes. Being kind of alive type stuff. It was messed up. Like it's messed up in all the good ways. Like it's a romance with this one surviving character. She's the only one left on her space journey. With her other people are space astronauts are dead. She doesn't remember why. She gets on the spaceship and then she meets an alien. And romance happens. I don't know how to describe it without spoiling what happens in this novella, but it was phenomenal. And like when I finished it, I read it in one sitting. It's only 100 and some odd 20 pages maybe or something on Kindle, and I was just sitting there like, what did I just read? It was so good though. It was so enjoyable, and highly suggest Thrum by Megan Smitherman. Really good novella. Next, I read an arc by Noah Isaacs called Heretic, a Prelude to the Testament of the Broken Gods. This book, as you can see by the cover, is pretty, very pretty. That's what sold it to me. But two, Noah's just a cool dude. But anyway, this is a assassin story. It's a prelude novella to a bigger series that Noah's about to launch. I don't know if it's coming out this year or next year or whatever, but this book, Heretic, this novella was really good. It was very simple, but the concept was really cool. It uses water, like natural phenomenon of water and rain and all that stuff is kind of like ascribed to a deity or, a goddess. And there is rationing of like drinking water and stuff involved. So the world building is really cool. And then in the backdrop is just, it's an assassin who is trained to be an assassin from a young age. The prologue is really interesting. It's told over the course of like this goddess's every 4 or 12-year coming. Like it happens every 12 years or 13 years. I can't remember exactly. But it happens over those 13 days, this prologue of how she changes as a young girl. And then the story comes where she's an adult and she's killed all these people as an assassin and stuff. So it was really cool. But then there's a sapphic love story with a nun, which I found awesome. But that was not the plot. The plot is the assassin has to go kill an emperor, and that happens, and all this stuff happens, and some cool assassin shenanigans happens. But this is a story about faith, not so much in capital F faith and these goddesses and stuff, but faith and belief. It was just a really enjoyable, quick read again. But definitely check out Heretic, a Prelude to the Testament of Broken Gods by Noah Isaacs. It just released, so give it a check. Still on my novella kick, I started off the month getting the ramping up with novellas, and I checked out Killer Quill by Shida Ketzer. Another novella, another assassin story novella. Pretty quick story, again, about 100 to 120 some odd pages, give or take. I can't remember exactly, but it's a quick story. It's a revenge story. This assassin, which started out cool, is she was killed, and then she is brought back to life by magic in the world, and she is hell-bent on getting some revenge. So the story is kind of like a revenge story. There is some cool, there's a magical artifact that she has. It's a hairpin that she uses, and it's tied to like colors and stuff like that. So there's some really interesting magic in there. Pretty action-packed for a short story, so very enjoyable. Yeah, definitely check out Killer Quill by Shida Ketzer if you're looking for an assassin novella. Just simple, quick read to get it done in one sitting. Next up, I read a book called Echoes of Destruction by W.K. Gorbet. This one was interesting because, I talked to W.K. Before, so he did a relaunch of this book, and he decided to do a relaunch of this book, and this is his debut. So I've been talking to him for a while, and I told him I'd give it a read, and it was a fun book. It's got some really cool concepts. You can see, as I mentioned in my review, it's reminded me of like a Japanese RPG, but after talking to him a little bit more, it was more inspired by anime and manga. But you could see it. It's dead on. The names are very that type of style. The magic system is cool. There's different lands that are like kind of graced by powers, blessed by these different gods. So there's like a lion god. There's a wolf god. There's a couple other ones. There's a phoenix in there and stuff like that. And they have these different cool powers. They're tied to aeons. If you're Final Fantasy at all, you kind of recognize the name Aeon in there. But there's two different types of stories going on. There's like a coming of age almost of these two loners in this like survival sect, I guess you would call it, like this little village, going on a quest, and some cool stuff happens. Then on the other side of things, there is a very megalomaniac power-hungry guy that wants to be like a god almost, and he's in charge of like this political intrigue stuff. So there's two different plots going on, and the political intrigue was cool because there was a lot more technology than I thought would have happened. So again, it felt very Japanese RPG. Really cool stuff, giant swords. What more can you go? The other realms, almost like summons, I guess you would say, but they're not. Just a lot of fun concepts in this book. So definitely a fun read. Definitely more of a fantasy sci-fi-ish combination going on there, and just a lot of cool stuff. And that was Echoes of Destruction by W.K. Gorbet. I read an arc, or an updated arc of this, and I'll be honest, I read this as a beta reader, and it is Threadstealer by Rob Leigh. It is the sequel to his Pathfinder book, which I absolutely adored because Greek history, like Greek mythology and fantasy, what more can I want? Sign me up, right? So Threadstealer is the second book of that series, and it continues right after the awesome climax of Pathfinder. And being a beta reader, I helped come up with some concepts that Rob, to help with Rob to make this story sing. And the story itself, in general, was awesome. There was nothing that I could say, like if he would have put that book out as it would have been a hit. It was really good. And then I read the arc in March, the updated arc with some of the changes he made from my notes and some other beta reader notes. And he just nailed it. This book is awesome. It has if you didn't read Pathfinder, just small spoiler, the book about chosen ones with gods, and they have magic powers relating to the elements and stuff like that. At the end of book one, the 5 chosen heroes are separate. Some things happen. I'm not going to spoil those. But then in book 2 here, the chosen gets spread out even more. So there's 5 chosen. We have 3 main plot lines with the 5 chosen. And I will point out that one of them is one of my favorites of this year, for sure going to be one of my favorites from this year, and that is the Ariel and Roy plot line. It was just really good. There's a lot of political intrigue on that side, but also the way that Rob wrote these characters and the trauma that they go through because they are in love with each other. They're romantic lovers. But Roy is dealing with he's got an entity inside him. You learn that in book 1. It's one of the gods for for better or worse, is like held inside of him and wants to like rip out of him. It's just a giant alligator type creature, which you might see on the cover of this book. And he's struggling to hold it in, and he is dying, and Ariel wants to save him. But a lot of stuff happens, and the ending, awesome ending. Awesome ending. And the way that Rob goes with it, chef's kiss. So Threadstealer, book 2 of the Pathfinder trilogy, really, really awesome book. Highly, highly recommend. Next up, I had The House of Starling by Ciara Hartford. This book, probably my favorite book of the month. It surprised me. It is a dark fantasy romance. I'm getting into my romance era, which is funny because, I've always loved the romance stuff, but I've kind of gone really grimdark lately, but now I'm getting back into the romance stuff. And this book was awesome. It's got enemies to lovers because there's two sides. These two elvish nations are fighting each other, and the main character is a stepdaughter of the queen, and the queen is kind of like this bloodthirsty ruler who wants to just destroy this other elvish clan. So, but what's really cool about this book is not only is it enemies to lovers, but these two people, these two who end up coming together, they just don't understand the other side of things because they're just taught to not understand the other things. And it's just kind of a cool concept that we live with in normal days where, we're brainwashed into only seeing our perspectives. So Ciara Hartford does a great job of, because it's a dual, or there's 3 POVs, but it's mainly dual POV. And you see how these two characters don't understand how, as these other race or clan or whatever you want to call it, or kingdom, like they just see them as the enemy, but they don't understand how they can be like this when the rest of them are like this. And it's just a cool dichotomy, and the slow burn was really great. The action was awesome. It was very dark too, a lot of action, a lot of death, a lot of fighting and stuff. So I thought that was really, really well handled, and it was just a great book. I plowed through it in a couple of days, and I enjoyed it immensely. So The House of Starling by Ciara Hartford is a great dark fantasy romance. Another sequel I did this month was A City of Ashes by Nick Snape. This is the sequel to A Dragon of the Vale, which is, as he describes, an arcane punk science fantasy. It's interesting. It has metal dragons that are like spaceships that hop realms, and it was cool as hell. I will say that this book, it's not as straightforward as book 1. Book 1 was like there was an invasion, and these characters are drawn into this invasion, and then there's like a secondary plot with a religion, hiding secrets for 1,000 years, and you kind of unravel that. In this book, it just like expands like even more, and there's a lot going on. And but what's really cool is that you get to see these other realms that this invading force, which is, for better or worse, they're like soul-sucking vampires. They attack these people, then suck their souls out, and they turn these people into dead husks. They're really cool, but they also have some awesome, like, weird tech, like these giant scorpion robot machines. There's ornithopters. There's, again, the dragons that are made of metal and all this stuff. But then there's like ghosts. Some of the characters are ghosts. They're inhabiting like weapons and the magical weapons and stuff. It's just really weird stuff, but it's so good and so enjoyable. This book was great, and I cannot wait for the third and final book because I don't know where Nick's going to take it. It's just really weird and fun. So that was A City of Ashes by Nick Snape. Okay, the chunker of the month was Die Young by Morgan Shank. This book was full of awesome concepts. It had a rogue mage, and it starts off in the front, very beginning. This rogue mage is going to hunt trolls, and then all of a sudden he loses his magic by a cool concept called snapping. Basically, in this world, if you're a mage, you write down all your spells in a book, and you hide that book, or you can entrust it to somebody you really, really trust. And if the book burns up, you snap and lose your magic. Awesome concept. So that's one plot or one character. Then there is this other mage who is a shaman of this cool clan that is kind of like a outside clan that people are, not happy with, the almost racist against, if you want to call it that. So she was really cool because she's a shaman and there's some cool magic related to that. Then there's a priest in there who has a cool blood magic stone, which was awesome when he unleashed it. Then you have a sister of the first mage who is a squire, but she's older, so she has some trauma there. And they go on there's this journey to kind of figure out why this mage's magic snapped. And there was a lot of cool political intrigue going on, awesome magic fights, lots of battles and stuff like that. Like I said, this is the chunk of the month. It was 600 some odd pages. It was kind of long in some spots, but it was a highly enjoyable book. And I know that this world, there's another series called Low Country, which is another like country in this world. And then this book is a trilogy. So there's a lot going on in this world, and it's a very broad world. Lots of stuff, lots of concepts, lots of lore. Cool stuff. So Die Young by Morgan Shank was definitely a fun read this month. So with that chunk being there, I needed something smaller. So I went with a novella called The Mountains of Sorrow by Iseult Murphy. And this one was a cool, short, I wouldn't say cozy, but again, it had a revenge theme to it, but it was very much a lighter read. Character with this, from a magic clan, the last one left, wants to kill this king. She goes to do it, but then something happens. Then she gets drawn into this bigger scheme and stuff like that. I say it's cozy because it's not a dark assassin book. There's not like a lot of fighting and stuff. There is some, but there is some cool magic in here. There is a fire panther fighting a mechanical drake almost, that's guarding the king. And then in the end, there's dragons, there are earth dragons and stuff like that. So there was a lot of cool little stuff. And again, novella, short, 100 some odd pages, give or take. Really quick read. I read it in one sitting. Just a fun little story. So The Mountains of Sorrow by Iseult Murphy. Second to last one of the month I read was The Moon's Eye by A.J. Kelvin. This book was the first of a trilogy, The Relics of War, it's called. And this one is a lot of fun. I will say that I read a book that came out later than this one that is set in the same world and has some of the same characters. So it's kind of interesting reading that book first and then coming back to this one. And this one is more classic fantasy, where it's more of a this character gets a quest, has to go on the quest, and then that part of the story happens. But what's cool about this is the main character is a scorpion man. Yes, he is half human, half scorpion. So that is really cool. He's trained by a god, so there are meddling gods in this story. On that side, he's the one leading this unremarkable daughter of a goddess to a quest to go find a relic of war, or a relic. And so they do that. But on the other side, and this is where the story nailed it for me, we have these, they're called the Soulless, but they're basically, and I talked to AJ about this, she's never read Wheel of Time, but they're basically like the Forsaken of Wheel of Time. There's a group, there's 4 of them in this book, and they are the sycophants of, the nameless god, the bad god. And they have so much inter-party fighting. They hate each other. They want to defeat each other. They're doing stuff with each other, but against all the time. They just don't like each other. There's a lot of anger and fighting and stuff. It was great. When the Soulless were on page, it was just phenomenal. And they are just great characters to watch and to read. And I enjoyed them building this army to go start destroying things. And what was kind of cool is because you see this army being built. And like I said, I read this other book called Serpentis, which is a standalone that takes place at the same time as some of this stuff happening, which is just really cool when authors do that for me. So, The Moon's Eye book 1 was really more straightforward. And I'm looking forward to the next 2 books in that series to see how A.J. Kelvin wraps up the Relics of War series. And finally, the last book I read in March was Along the Razor's Edge by Rob J. Hayes. Now, this one's been sitting on me for a long time, and I'm so mad that I waited so long to read this book. This book was awesome. I'm not usually 100% sold on first-person point of view. Like, it takes a good author to make the prose dynamic and the voice dynamic enough for me to be like fully invested in first person. And Rob nails it with this one. The main character, Eska, is just, she is feral, she is snarky, she is determined, she is stubborn, she is just raw. That's as I describe it. She is just raw. And if you don't like her and don't like her voice, you're not going to like this book. But that said, I loved it. And what was really cool about this is she is a young woman who was a mage in a losing empire. Like, her empire was destroyed against this other empire, and she was taken prisoner. And she's sent to this deep, dark pit to dig stone. Like, that's what they do with prisoners of war. They just dig in this underground cavern. And her trying to escape, she is working her way up through, the underbelly of these foremen and all these people that are just murderers and killers and all this stuff. And then she's got a friend beside her she's been friends with since she was like 6. They went to the magic school together. There was some cool brother-sister dynamics there. It's just a lot of awesome, cool concepts. And the magic system was really cool. It's very simple. There's multiple different schools of magic that these mages can use, sorcerers can use. It's called the source. And basically what they do is they swallow something called the source, and then they can use that magic power. And there, like I said, there's multiple different schools, and she has a few of them. So what was really cool is, like, she had them, and then now she doesn't have them anymore. And so there was that magic loss that she was dealing with, as well as trying to escape, trying to survive, being like one of the few women in this prison, and just being young and naive. So there was a lot of cool character development in this story, and it's just brutal. It's dark. There are cool summon from different realm demons that show up in this, and one of them actually, as you can see in the book cover, is involved with Eska. So that storyline was really cool, and it was just a very awesome book 1 of a series. And I'm not sure where the rest of this series can go, because Eska is telling this story as an adult, so much later in her life. So she's relaying that she's done all this other stuff. So, and there's hints of it, and it's really kind of cool. So I have no idea where the rest of the story is going to go, but book 1 was awesome. So, and plus Rob is just one of the greats in the indie, community. Most people have heard of him. If you haven't, then I'm surprised. He's been around for a long time, 10 plus years, 15 years, dropping banger books after one another. So definitely check out Along the Razor's Edge. And that's, I read 11 books in March, so I think that's pretty darn good. I will be back next month with my April books, and I've already read a few so far this month, and so far everyone has been just as good as March. So I will be back next time, and I will see you then. Check it out. Bye.